We're hearing a lot of different views about President Trump's first few days in office. We now turn to Carrie Sheffield, a conservative activist and analyst at the Independent Women's Voice, for a conservative perspective. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Ari, and I appreciate that you want substance, not name calling.
Fair enough. So when you look at these first few days, what do you think the president is achieving that affects people's everyday lives or their economic conditions?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know from Gallup and elsewhere that the economy was the #1 reason why Trump won. And his executive orders have unleashed amazing things that will be great. I think primarily something that's been under the radar is the fact that he halted federal regulation. So, for example, Casey Mulligan, he's a prominent economist from University of Chicago. He was in his first term. He'll be joining again in his second term. He's done multiple studies to show the negative downgrading effect on our economy of Joe Biden and his regulation. So that's a big thing we're going to see that I predict here will help lower inflation. You also had the Unleashing American Energy executive order. This will do things like expand drilling on federal land, allow for the development of rare earth minerals. I recently interviewed the governor of Alaska, someone also from the Utah Energy Office of Development there. And then you also had the governor of Nevada was upset at Joe Biden because he basically stopped some development on federal land for drilling without even telling the governor of Nevada. So these governors are upset at what Biden was saying for not only rare earth minerals, which are used to develop the EVs and things like that, but also for oil as well. And so Donald Trump embraces an all-of-the-above strategy. He's not talking out of both sides of his mouth, and that is going to lower the price of energy, which is a big reason we had inflation. I could go on, but there are many things that I
interesting. Yeah, and there's been a lot happening, so interesting to tick through some of it. It was pretty striking, and I mentioned this before the break, to see Elon Musk do what he might call a update or a fact check of the president's own announcement. He basically said with regard to this sort of spending and AI announcement that they did, they don't actually have the money. And so we have this set of different billionaires with different tech agendas. Again, the one big question is how the American people benefit from this. But the other is a simple question to you tonight. Who is correct, President Trump or Elon Musk?
Well, I think I can't help but wonder if Elon Musk is a little bit jealous that he wasn't one of those tech titans standing on the south lawn of the White House on this AI initiative, so that might be part of it. But when it comes to having disagreements, I think that's the refreshing, beautiful thing that Elon Musk is bringing to the table, is that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to have just debates and discussions about things. And so that's the beauty of it. And so I don't think that Elon would say this is a bad thing for him to be able to question what's happening.
What do you as a conservative think about Musk using his government advisory group to promote the crypto he owns, and President Trump launching a crypto coin, which now has billions going in and out of it? Conservatives, as you know, have long been concerned about big government spending and corruption. How is it not a risk of corruption to have the people regulating crypto and other financial instruments now blatantly benefiting from it, and in some cases appearing to use their government access to promote it?
Well, President Trump was a brand before he went into politics. He was a brand the last 4 years when he was out of office. So he's a brand. And I think that we have to update how we think about that. So, for example, Barack Obama wrote a book, his memoir, and was selling books and profiting off those books. Was it upsetting that he basically profited off his brand of his own books? And multiple other presidents have done that as well while in office. So I think it's when you're talking about the digital age.
I'm short on time, but is that that's the kind of conservative answer? Everybody does it. I mean, in Musk's case, he's using taxpayer resources to promote his crypto. Obama didn't do anything like that.
Elon Musk, to my knowledge, has not received a single penny of compensation from the federal government for his
No, but he's got a website that's got the crypto dog on it. I mean, I've shown this on air, and it's no secret. He's named the thing after the dog. I'm not repeating it because we're not doing free crypto promotion tonight. And he's got the taxpayer-funded website doing it. And I guess the question is, again, for independent, honest conservatives, not the RNC, isn't that exactly the kind of concern about the misuse of tax dollars that conservatives have always said is a problem?
That's not the business that Elon is in. He's Tesla. I mean, that's not the source of his wealth. He's a PayPal investor. I think that this is something that is not that big of an issue. I don't think that he is making different decisions based on what's happening with it. I mean, do you have evidence of that?
Well, I mean, I just gave you some of the evidence that we've reported. Yes, he's using the access and the site that way, and this is in the early days. So it's one of the things we're keeping an eye on. We wanted to get a conservative view, and Carrie, as always, I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you. We'll be right back.